Another common problem that you're going to run into is photographing small bathrooms. Now, your first instinct might be to get in the corner with a 17mm lens and capture as much as possible, but this bathroom is a perfect example of why not to do that. Another challenge we're facing here is that we're shooting directly into the mirror, something that happens more often than not. Further complicating things, this bathroom is covered in black reflective surfaces, so we've got a pretty challenging bathroom here, and we're going to try to make the best photo that we possibly can. Let's get our composition set up and find out what works and what doesn't. So to give you guys an idea, I'm going to pretend I am not a thinking photographer. I've got my wide-angle lens on here, and I just want to show the entire room in one shot. So I think you guys understand this is a bit of a mess. Way too wide. The light in the top is pretty ugly. We're staring at a giant toilet bowl, and the cabinets are totally distorted. I'll try it from the other angle, but I imagine we're going to have much the same problem. It doesn't take much to know that this photo kind of sucks. We're showing really nothing, so I'm going to put away the 17, keep that in the bag for now. Let's get the 24 out and see how it improves. Okay, so we've switched lenses, and I'm going to go for the traditional one-point perspective. There's some really cool things in this bathroom that I think will translate really well by using a one-point perspective. First of all, we've got beautiful light filtering in through this frosted glass window. It really lights up that texture on the wall, which I think is one of the coolest parts of this bathroom. We've also got this mirror, which is being backlit by this tungsten glow all around it, which is really cool too. We have the same material on the bathroom countertop that's in the kitchen and the same wood cabinetry. So we're gonna go one-point perspective, but that introduces another problem. I'm shooting straight into a mirror. And that can either be an easy fix or a nightmare, and in this case, it's a bit of a nightmare. So let's get it framed up and I'll walk you through it. All right, so there's our first test shot, and I'm really liking it. But right off the bat, you see what I'm talking about with the mirror, right? In the reflection, I am crossing paths with a painting behind me, and there's no way that you're ever going to be able to recreate that painting just by cloning and removing yourself with a little bit of lasso trickery. So that's another problem that we'll fix at the end. But for now, let's get our tripod set up in the right spot and dial in our composition. So I've got the composition dialed in, and it's pretty similar to my handheld shot. I just tweaked it a little bit, and unfortunately, the best spot for the camera is right in that painting behind us. So let's talk about what I like with this composition and what I'll probably have to fix later. First of all, there's that really ugly light in the ceiling, which is being reflected in the mirror. So we're gonna have to deal with that. But what I do like is I've got a beautiful quality of light coming from left to right, and I love the glow behind the mirror. I don't really think that plant is necessary in here. I think this is kind of a black, darker, sexier bathroom. So I'm gonna lean towards taking that plant out. Maybe we can find another prop, or maybe we can leave it empty, but in any case, I'm gonna pull it out, we'll take a test shot and see how it looks. There's a little sliver of door and window on the left. I'm probably just gonna end up cropping that to simplify the shot in the end. And since there's a crack in the ceiling, I'm probably gonna crop some of that down as well and get rid of the mirror up top. So let's begin to perfect this shot. Now I'm in the bathroom, and I love the glowy quality of light from that underlighting behind the mirror, but I really don't like this cool sort of daylit thing in the ceiling. Unfortunately, they're all on the same switch, so if I want to get rid of this, I gotta lose that also. So I'm gonna take a product called Cinefoil, and I'm gonna physically block that with the Cinefoil. Cinefoil is a black aluminum heat-resistant light blocking foil, which really comes in handy when you run into little problems like this. It works on exit signs, overhead lights, street lamps, you name it. It's a great thing to have in the bag. So here is just a little piece of Cinefoil. It comes in rolls. It's about like 30 bucks a roll. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gaff tape a little piece of this to the ceiling to ensure it doesn't fall, and then we can get our shot. Okay, so I've got my Cinefoil up there blocking the light, and I think I'm gonna try to find a different prop than this plant. I'm not a huge fan of fake plants in my photos, so Colleen, if you could grab that wooden thing, the wood one, this? Yeah. Or, I don't know, maybe one of those tall ones too. Grab one of each. Now, the reason I'm choosing these, this is nice and tall. It gives a nice balance, and the wood might be a nice contrast. It might match up with that golden glow behind the mirror rather nicely, but we'll see how it looks. All right. Do another test shot here. I personally like that a lot better. The colors feel much more nicely matched to the actual design of the interior, and we got a fake plant out of there, which is always a plus in my book. So I'm pretty happy with everything at this point. Let's go ahead and make our final image. For this shot, we don't need to add any light. we had the benefit of that beautiful frosted glass light in the bathroom. And of course, you're not going to get that on every shot, but this is a great example of just because you have lights in your bag doesn't mean that you need to use them. If there's already great existing light in a space, just run with it. We've done some subtractive lighting to take out that daylight bulb above, which cut down significantly on the amount of color pollution and that sort of flare that we were getting up top. So I think we can get this in maybe just 1 or 2 shots. So I'm gonna go ahead and bracket. I'm just gonna do 3 shots. We don't need the full 5. I'm at f11, half a second, ISO 200, and we're gonna see how it looks. So we've got our 3 bracketed photos. All that's left is to get the camera out of that reflection in the mirror. Now, you might want to go into post and do all kinds of crazy cloning, but it's not that difficult. All I'm going to do, because my head is perfectly level, I'm going to unlock the camera. I'm just going to spin it 180 degrees and photograph exactly what's behind the camera. And we're going to take that and put it in over the mirror in our shot and avoid all of the hassle of cloning a really complicated thing that the camera is in front of. So let's take these into post-production and put this shot together. Okay, so it's time to edit our bathroom photo, and honestly, I'm gonna keep this one pretty quick and easy. I don't think there's much to it other than that cool trick I showed you where I just turned the camera around 180 degrees on the swiveling head. So this is, and frankly, it's a pretty quick edit. We don't need to go nuts. It's just gonna be, look at the histogram. It's as perfect as it gets, right? I'm just gonna pull the highlights down, and you can see that's sort of bringing the texture out of the left side of the wall there. I can bump the shadows up a little bit. I don't wanna go too nuts. I like the shadowy feel to this image. And maybe it's like a smidge overexposed overall. I think that's probably fine. This was just one of the sequence of bracketed exposures. Maybe I could go one darker. Let's just see how that happens, how that looks. Check all, synchronize. No, I think this is probably the one. The problem is this. Is that Marilyn Monroe? This Marilyn Monroe picture back here? Now, if you're a more daring person than I, you could try to clone this out in Photoshop, but that's gonna be a nightmare to recreate all of that. I find it easier, and it has a lot of applications to just, if you were faced with a mirror like this, take the shot, spin the camera around. And it's not gonna work if the mirror, it's like the mirror is huge and the bathroom is tiny, but a lot of these houses I shoot have a mirror with a door right behind, and it's really quick to cover your tracks here. So we're just gonna grab the shot of the camera swiveled around, and here's what it looks like. Very typical, very straightforward. Highlights can come down, shadows can come up. I think the exposure is like fine. It looks like this, right? So I'm gonna take these 2 exposures and we're gonna open them in Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so here's my 2 images, and the main problem I need to solve here is getting rid of everything in this reflection without having to spend 20 minutes going in here with the little clone tool and, you know, trying to drag this down, and it's just going to be crazy. Recreating that corner, getting rid of the tripod in the reflection and everything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this mirror frame right here, and first I'm just going to delete everything I don't think I'm going to use. So, and I'm going to change the opacity of this so that I can size it correctly. I'm going to change the opacity of the whole layer to like 50%. I'm just using the 0 to 9 keys on the keyboard here to do that. And hit Command T to then resize, just kind of matching up. It doesn't need to be exact. That's the size of that art on the wall. Like that'll do. And as you can see, the reflection doesn't match up. So I'm gonna have to Command T, flip horizontal. All right, and now that matches. The size isn't perfect, but it's close enough, and it's a quick fix to get it, you know, right-ish. It does not need to be perfect. It's a mirror. People are going to think it's crazy anyway. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that mirror, and I'm going to take the pen tool, the lasso tool, and let's do the pen tool. We haven't done that yet. And I'm just going to, similar to my lasso, click the corners of the mirror. And down here, this is where it gets interesting. We can just sort of draw a nice gentle curve with that pen tool. Click and drag to draw a curve, and then I'm going to Alt or Option click on the node to get rid of that that curve, and then continue clicking up. And you can use the lasso for this, that's fine, whatever you find easier. And I'm going to close that loop up there, and I'm going to hit Command Enter, and that is going to turn our pen selection, our pen path into a selection. Turn on the mirror layer, get my opacity back up to 100%, and click the Add Layer Mask button. And there is our replaced mirror image of what is behind us. Now I'm going to get rid of this light. I'm just going to go ahead and clone that out. I'll use the Content Aware, the Cheaters tool. And there it is. Looks like there's a little bit over here that I missed. So I can just take my mask and I can just use the white paintbrush. And I'm just going to paint up the side here to fully sell that illusion. And there you have it. I think it's a little dark and maybe a little low. So I'm going to drag that up a little bit. That looks pretty good. And I'll add a, and I'll add a curves layer to that to brighten up that background and keep it more true to what it was. So if you know what you're doing, this is a 15-second job, a frustration-free 15-second job. There's one thing that we haven't got yet, and that is this reflection in the mirror. That's a quick clone, thankfully. Go ahead in here with the clone tool, and I'll just paint out my tripod. And there's a little crack over here in the mirror. I'm going to clone that out as well. You know what? Yeah, I'll clone that out. It's not the mirror I hate, it's the mirrored ceiling. All right, that's all set. And then our cinefoil, which is a quick, I'm just going to clone out that whole light. And I'll do the same thing with this vent. Ta-da. And that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and save this back to Lightroom. Yes, there is a tripod in the ceiling. I will show you how I deal with that in one moment. Okay, here we are in Lightroom. I will add a little contrast. You probably a little texture, a little clarity, a little vibrance, a little saturation. The yellow down here is a lot. So I'm going to take some of that yellow out just to have a nice warm glow down there. I am going to do a guided transform to make sure our vertical lines and horizontal lines in this case, because you got a 1-point perspective, are nice and straight. Okay, that looks good. And I hate this mirrored ceiling. It's gonna get the axe. So is that left-hand side. So is half that yellow. So is the door handle. Boom. There's our shot. I could even see a universe in which we crop. That's too much, right? I need to see some of that floor. Right there is our photo. And I'm going to add a little vignette because this is a bit of a contrasty one, and I'm okay with it. A little darker, a little moody. Come in a little bit there. Boom, there's our shot. That tells us everything we need to know about the bathroom and no more. And it's very artistic, very graphic. Nice 1-point perspective, very clean because we got rid of that sort of the mess out in the mirror. And I think it's a great shot of a little powder room on the first floor. Let's go back on location and get our next image.